PowerPoint going. So most of the slides are probably familiar to some. This is the same presentation we gave to the DAC and a little bit of repeat from our last orientation. So I'm going to ask that we hold any questions or comments till the end. And we do have our new DAC liaison here to sort of give us a highlight of the DAC priorities and values. And all right, we'll go from there. Next slide. Okay, so here's a snapshot of our team that you'll most likely either hear of or see. So Kia Selly is our director. She's not able to be with us today. And then of course, Dominic you met, and myself, Callie, and Lydia, and then Jessica, who actually coordinated this meeting today. So, okay, next slide. So the basics. Our budget committee is comprised of equal parts NCPRD board of directors, also known as the county commissioners, and 5 district residents. So all of you. Our budget committee will meet 2 to 3 times per year to receive updates on the budget. This is an update from the last year. The county budget committee webpage has prior agendas, packets, and video recordings. The NCPRD financial resources webpage contains the budget committee bylaws and financial resources. Members are appointed in staggered 3-year terms. Incumbents must reapply to be considered for subsequent terms, and all appointed members have the same authority. The budget committee meets in late May in person each fiscal year to deliberate on the proposed budget. Okay, and this is our current board of directors. As of January, Chair Roberts will be incoming, and Director Fireside will replace Director Scholl. You'll notice our board of directors are the Clackamas County Commissioners. And our resident appointed budget committee members, of course, we all, only one missing is Wendy. So hopefully she is able to make it. But it has everybody's term, which everybody's still in their first term, when their term ends and when they're appointed. Okay. Next one. So this is a new slide here. It's our public budget calendar, and it has upcoming meetings that we've planned or intend to have to improve communication, involvement, and transparency in the budget process. We are aligning our communication strategy with the District Advisory Committee, also known as the DAC, and including a DAC liaison. So more to come on this. And dates for these meetings will be forthcoming. Today we are having the budget committee orientation and budget committee 101 overview with all of you. And we previously had this presentation with our DAC last week. In February, we will be back with both groups again to have a high-level proposed budget preview and ask for discussion. Again, this will be an opportunity for the DAC liaison to take information back to you, the budget committee. In May, after the proposed budget is ready, we will have a joint meeting where we will give a high-level overview of the information we plan to bring forward in the annual budget committee meeting. In late May, the annual budget committee meeting to hear and approve the FY 25-26 proposed budget will be held. In June, the NCPRD Board of Directors will adopt the 25-26 approved budget. So, slide. The role of the DAC in the budget process. So the role of the DAC is to provide input to staff on these items. So property acquisition, capital projects, planning projects, and program services and events. And they provide information and support to the NCPRD Budget Committee, which we will cover on the next slide. We also hope that DAC members will encourage community members to submit their budget requests online. See.
I can't get that to go away with sharing the screen for the video.
Oh, okay.
They have one screen. So that's fine.
That's okay. These slides will be online afterwards, so that will be easily accessible. Okay, so the DAC, we'll click the next one.
Doesn't seem to want to go.
I doesn't want to, there we go. Okay, so DAC Budget Committee Liaison. In our effort to improve communication involvement with the budget and the Budget Committee, we have recruited a DAC liaison. The DAC liaison will communicate DAC values and priorities, serve as a Budget Committee resource, share DAC comments and or concerns with the Budget Committee. And Sheila Shaw has been selected as our DAC liaison, who is here with us today, and we will hear from Sheila here shortly. So this is a high level phase, our high level phase of the budget process or budget preparation. Let me just restart that. Our high level phases of budget preparation are reviewing the requested budget with the district administrator. This usually happens in March. We present the proposed budget to the budget committee. This usually happens in mid to late May. At the budget committee meeting, the proposed budget will be approved. In June, the board will adopt the approved budget. Any changes after adoption have to be completed via a supplemental budget, and these are completed on an as-needed basis. Okay, so we'll go into a little bit deeper detail on these different phases. In phase one, staff review current year projections. Year-end projections let us know how much spending authority we have for the next budget cycle. Within this process, departments reassess programs to determine alignment with the district's priorities or desired results, then build the requested budget. Finance packages all the budget requests and prepares the proposed budget for distribution and deliberation. And new this year, we're going to integrate DAC and budget committee input. Adding early budget education meeting with the budget committee, and we have also added a budget 101 presentation for the DAC. We've included DAC discussion on budget priorities. So phases 2 and 3 happen in conjunction with each other at the annual budget committee meeting held in May each year. Prior to the budget committee meeting, the budget document is distributed. At the meeting, the budget message will be read. The budget committee will hear and consider public comment, discuss and revise the proposed budget as needed, approve the budget, approve the property tax levy, recommend the budget for adoption to the board of directors, and we've added an additional meeting during with the DAC and the budget committee for a high level overview of the proposed budget that we intend to have prior to the annual budget meeting in mid to late May. So phase 4. And the NCPRD Board of Directors will adopt the budget. They make appropriations and impose their property tax levy, and this must happen prior to June 30th of each year. And phase 5 is changes after budget adoption. So changes after the budget have been adopted must happen through a supplemental budget. Supplemental budgets can increase or decrease appropriations. They can create a new appropriation category, create new funds. Departments must make changes before overspending so that we do not fall out of compliance with Oregon budget law. We complete these on an as-needed quarterly basis and in conjunction with Clackamas County. So we've provided links to prior budget committee presentation materials and the current fiscal year adopted budget should it be useful. And then some additional resources for budgeting and financial information. This presentation will, of course, be available online after today, and the slide deck is linked to the various pages mentioned. The NCPRD financial information link will take you directly to our page, and the budget committee information is available right at the top. Okay, so now we are going to get into the budget structure. Okay, so the NCPRD budget includes 5 funds. The NCPRD general fund has the most flexible funds, and it's where we collect revenue like property taxes and where you'll see our operating expenses. We have 3 system development charge funds, and this is where we collect SDC permit fees from new development such as a new apartment building or a major redevelopment, and these funds can be used to build new parks and facilities. The last fund is our capital projects fund, where we hold funds for our capital projects. Think like the new park at the Concord property, and large repairs and replacements of district assets, such as replacement of a pump here at the Quad Park. Provided here are the terms used throughout our budget that you should know and understand. So appropriations is the amount we budget to spend. Reserves are funds set aside or reserved for future spending. Capital outlay is the budget category for funding assets with a value of 10,000 or more and a useful life of more than 1 year. So we're not talking about budgeting for grass seed, but for that aquatic park pump. Expenditures are an outlay of funds that is chargeable for a specific period, typically 1 year. Resources equals cash available plus total revenues. Our fiscal year is the 12-month period to which the annual operating budget applies, which is July 1 through June 30. Revenue is income received to support programs provided to the community, such as grants, donations, taxes, or fees, and requirements equal appropriations plus reserves. So this is the current FY fiscal year 24-25 adopted budget through, we had a first quarter supplemental budget. So it is 61.5 million. We can, let's see, we have the budget broken down into 2 buckets, operating and non-operating. Operating expenses are directly related to our programs in daily operations and provide funding to our 5 lines of business, which are administration, programs and community centers, older adult services, parks, trails, and natural areas, and planning and development. Operating expenses include personnel costs, materials, and services associated with these 5 lines of business. Non-operating totals 49.8 million. That includes capital improvement projects such as a new park, capital repair and replacement projects such as that aquatic park pump mentioned earlier, interfund transfers, contingency, and reserves, which is why the non-operating budget is so large. We will go into more detail on these in the next few slides. So the general fund houses 5 lines of business, which are listed over here on the left. And the NCPRD does not receive any county general fund, but is instead primarily funded with taxes collected from district residents. That was set at 54 cents per 1,000 of assessed property value over 30 years ago. So the administration line of business includes the director, deputy director, executive support, and the finance and marketing and communication teams. It receives property taxes from district residents, which is 30% of the general fund resources. And a small amount of revenue from interest, which is the 3% under all other revenue in the pie chart. The programs and community center line of business is comprised of recreation such as adult art classes, kids summer camps, and summer concerts and movies. Aquatics, which is all the programs here at the aquatic park, and sports. Think Hooper's basketball for kids, adult softball, and adaptive and inclusive sports programs. Revenue received here is from program registrations, facility rentals, special events, contributions, and donations, which is about 10% of the general fund, not including a very small amount for contributions and donations. The older adult services line of business includes older adult transportation, such as driving older adults to and from the Milwaukee Community Center and a trip to the grocery store. Older adult services, these are social service visits in home and referrals, and older adult nutrition, including Meals on Wheels and meals 5 days a week at the Milwaukee Community Center. This line of business receives some contributions and donations, including from the NCC Foundation, some travel program revenue, special event revenue, and grant funding from Clackamas County Social Services. The Parks, Trails, and Natural Areas line of business is comprised of parks, natural areas, and facility maintenance. Revenue received is typically from facility rentals, grants, and maintenance contracts with other entities. And then the planning and development line of business houses our planning program and currently receives grant revenue for projects. So if you're looking at that, the pie chart is really a makeup of all of our funding spread out over all the programs. So it's difficult to say that, you know, this piece of the pie is for admin and this one is recreation and things like that. It's really the makeup of all of it combined. So let's see here. Our general fund expenditures include the 6 uses shown here. NCPRD personnel costs are included in the materials and services bucket because NCPRD employees are contracted employees from Clackamas County since NCPRD is a special district. Personnel costs make up about 32% of the materials and services percentage.
So, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Okay, so is that 32 out of the 47%? Okay.
Yeah. And then transfers are the movement of funds between funds, such as between the general fund to the capital projects fund for a capital improvement project, such as the community center renovations at the Concord property. Allocated costs are fees the district pays to the county for support services like human resources, legal, and technology services. These are also included within materials and services. So of that 47%, 6% of that is allocated costs. Contingency is money set aside in the current budget that we can utilize if an unanticipated need arises, and reserves are money set aside for future use, again, like a savings account. During the last DAC meeting, there were a handful of questions that were generated from the last few slides. And so we're working on a memo to include with our next DAC report that will include answers to those questions. So, so a couple of those questions were understanding transfers and allocated charges and what percentage of the overall budget those are comprised of. Additionally, we intend to review the way we display information regarding transfers to make it more meaningful. So more to come on that. System development charges. System development charges, or more commonly called SDCs, are one-time fees collected for new development or significant redevelopments. They can only be used to fund projects that increase the capacity of the district to serve growth. So think new capital projects or major enhancements such as a pickleball court or at an existing park. SDCs cannot be used for operations or maintenance, repair, or replacements, such as the new aquatic park pump. Fees are collected within 3 zones. So zone 1, if you're looking at the map up there, is the area in yellow, which includes the city of Milwaukee and the urban growth management area. 2 separate accounts keep funds collected in each of these 2 areas separate. In the budget book for next year, you'll see a breakdown of the fund balance and forecast for these 2 sub areas for zone 1. Zone 2, shown in pink, includes the Concord property where we are currently constructing a new park playground and renovating the community center. And zone 3 is the area shown in blue that is located east of I-205. The beginning fund balance for all zones this fiscal year was $13.5 million. So keep in mind that some of these resources are currently allocated to capital projects. Capital Projects Fund includes the capital improvement project and capital repair and replacement programs. The list of prioritized capital improvement projects will be identified in the system plan and are eligible for SDC funds since they increase the district's capacity to serve growth. Capital repairs and replacements are major repairs and replacement of district assets, as I mentioned earlier, such as a playground structure or an aquatic park pump. Please note that the interfund transfers include revenue transfers from the general fund and SDC funds to this fund. The pie chart shows the various funding streams that support the capital projects fund in the current budget. So that includes the beginning fund balance, grants, all other revenue, which is interest, and interfund transfers, which is money from the NCPRD general fund and SDC. NCPRD provides an online opportunity for the community to submit proposals that require budget through the budget proposal form. The form is available online throughout the year. Proposals received prior to December 15th of the upcoming fiscal year are analyzed during budget development for financial feasibility, equity, alignment with emerging system plan priorities, and staff capacity for development, operations, and maintenance. For the upcoming budget cycle, we have received submissions for additional parking at Pfeiffer Park and enhancements to the North Clackamas Park Playground and Dog Park. So the next couple slides are the talking points that Kia had with the DAC last week that got the discussion going on the DAC's priorities, values, where NCPRD is concerned. So I'm going to go over kind of the talking points that Kia had for both slides, and then Sheila's going to sort of digest that, the outcome of that conversation. So for the fiscal year 25-26 planning and development budget, we are taking a close look at our list of projects and applying a realistic lens given existing NCPRD staff capacity. Identified here are the projects that the planning and development team has capacity to accomplish in fiscal year 25-26. You will notice that this list is shorter than the list included in the division report in your DAC packet. Because each of these projects, if they make it into the requested budget, will have funding allocated. You'll also note that the big asterisk on this slide, that the system plan will identify the final and a more robust list of projects to be completed over multiple fiscal years next spring. For future budgeting cycles, that prioritized capital improvement project list from the system plan will directly inform the projects we will be undertaking. So in this slide, we talk about the percentage of program budget allocated to the different areas of our recreation system. So these breakouts, like older adult services and aquatic park, does not include the cost to maintain or operate the buildings. So this slide part shows the general fund subsidy for these programs in the current fiscal year. Revenues from fees, grants, sponsorships, and donations also support these programs, as mentioned earlier. With limited funds, increasing operational costs, and new assets at the Concord property coming online in the next year, we will need to make some difficult budget decisions. So this is where the discussion happened last week, and now I'm going to invite Sheila to kind of digest how that conversation, or what came out of that conversation.
Okay, so the conversation that we had, there were several of us there at the meeting. And using especially the chart that was before that is what we were commenting on. And that completing the system plan is a priority for the DAC. And some of that kind of goes to prioritizing park development in park deficient areas. When we've seen the information that's kind of coming out of that, it really shows that there are some areas that do not have as many parks as others. And it came up, for an example, the Justice property. The SDC methodology update after the system plan, that's a priority too for us to get that information about what those funds are coming in. And we put the Trails Network plan as a lower priority, but the thinking behind that was simply that's something that hadn't started yet. And so the Concord was up there, the Jennings Lodge is up there. Don't hear us saying we're not in support of those programs. Those are there and going, but just because they didn't come out in our comments doesn't mean that we're not supportive of those. A question that we had was the older adult services. We really would like for that to maintain the status quo, that, you know, there's really good services that we have going on there. But the question arises, is our parks funds the best money going into that? One person suggested that not subsidizing travel trips and bus services. And in general, there was a request to see, are there other sources of funding that could support our seniors? And sports and aquatics came out as being a real top priority, especially the fact that there's adaptive and inclusive sports. Those were of high interest to the group.
So these, list of priorities and goals will sort of help NCPRD staff to shape the budgets going into the next year. Or they will be in our discussions on when we start talking.
Take it into consideration.
Everyone will be competing against each other, so what they're trying to say nicely.
So we want to give everybody in this room a big thank you. It does not. It takes a lot to give your free time to us, so we want to just know that, we want you all to know that we appreciate it. Doesn't go on. So is there any questions or comments that we can help tackle? I went through that pretty quick, but. Yeah.
Going back to, I guess it would be like the third page, we were talking about the phases of the budget prep. You mentioned the supplemental budget, step 5. I, again, I've only been on this for a little over a year now, but I thought Kia had mentioned that there was potentially some supplemental budget items for this year.
Yeah, so in fiscal year 24-25,
yeah.
we went to the board and we passed we held a hearing and we had a supplemental budget for 13 million-ish. And it was basically to right size our budget, so that we can, when we went into budget development, we had so many, balls in the air where Concord was concerned and funding. And so once our budget was approved and we got through the first quarter, it was really, we realized that we can use funding, district-wide for Concord and other projects. So that was, so yes, we did go to the board for a supplemental budget in the first quarter.
And some of it was also, we were delayed with our project Concord last year, so it basically what we budgeted to be done last fiscal year kind of got carried over to the next one. We kind of figured that out
Right.
after the fact. So the same money, but it just kind of went from last,
Shifted it.
yeah, shifted, so.
Was it money from like the Clackamas County as a whole, or money in the actual budget itself that was moved to like an SDC?
It's no county budget, so this is all just
Yeah,
NCPRD
okay.
funds. And it's so we shifted some SDC, I think spending authority. We shifted spending authority to not only the general fund, but also our SDC funds.
Okay. And then, is that something that typically involves the budget committee, or is that not?
Not typically, no. We've been discussing involvement, of course. So our hope is that by including our DAC liaison and increasing by 2 additional meetings, we feel all that will help to increase the transparency and communication and things between the district, the DAC, and the budget.
Okay, so in terms of recommending budgets to the board, it's only the annual budget that this could be this, is that correct? Okay,
And I would say it's fair to say we knew before the end of last fiscal year that we were gonna have to do a supplemental.
yeah,
So-
yeah, that's, I just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify, because
Yeah.
when Kia mentioned it, I thought it was thought it was something that we had to be involved in, but it doesn't sound like it.
I think you have to kind of lock it in early on, but then we knew that we weren't gonna be able to spend the money like we thought on the big projects, but we would be spending it in this fiscal year, and that's kind of what led to a lot. And then when we decided to use Concord as a district-wide asset, it gave us access to two additional special SDC funds.
Mhm.
So we didn't have to use as much as our general fund, so it helps us out more long-term, that runway of our general fund to kind of allow us to use that for, kind of unrestricted access to what's deemed necessary.
One question you mentioned, and this probably isn't an answer that you provide today, but there was a question of revenue, or there was the pie chart on the revenue. And it had like 30% for taxes and 50% for starting balance fund.
Mhm.
In there, I didn't see where on the pie chart it was where county general funds might come from. Because it mentioned, I think you mentioned somewhere that part of the older adult services are funded by county funds, maybe not county general funds, but county funds.
Oh, yes, okay.
Where those are shown.
Sure, so our older adult services line of business receives Clackamas County Social Services grant money, and so it's really pass-through dollars that they're receiving as like grant funding. And so we show it as federal, state, local gifts, donation. So it's actually just 1% of our total revenue resources.
So it is in there, it's just very small. Yeah. Just kidding, good. Thank you.
What's the difference between a contribution and a donation?
Sure, so, I, so that I don't say it wrong, I might. Look
Yeah,
it up
I just
to
keep
see.
noticing it always says contributions and donations,
Yeah.
and I've kind of used them interchangeably myself.
Mm-hmm. To me, I feel like and I'm sure there's a specific term which I will for sure look up, but a contribution is, here is a contribution to help Meals on Wheels, and maybe a donation is, here's money for, I want a bench at a park or something.
Okay.
And we don't take advantage right now, really, like we potentially could, of donations. A lot of the donations we get run through the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation. And then it might get funneled to us, especially if people do a restricted donation where they say, hey, I want this to go to youth scholarships. So something that's been talked about for a while. We just got a lot of, the volunteers are doing a lot, so it's gonna take a grassroots community effort to kind of, if we want to get a Parks Foundation, and then we could take donations directly to us, which might insulate us down the road if there's ever a split when Milwaukee leaves the district, because the foundation would go with them.
The existing.
Yeah, the existing one, yeah.
So there's an existing North Trappers Park Center?
No, there's an existing Milwaukee's Community Center Foundation, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they can be used as a pass-through to get to us sometimes, so if you made a donation to them, you can use it for tax purposes, and then you can tell them what you want to go to, so
So if Milwaukee does split off, the
that's tied to that.
center goes
Mhm.
with them.
I don't know, but is that a fact?
No, you mean the foundation?
The foundation I get, but she.
Oh, no, so I'm just talking the foundation,
Oh,
wherever the
okay.
center goes, the foundation will go, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. We don't, I mean.
All right, never mind.
That would be all speculation, I don't know.
Okay, because I thought the Milwaukee Center property wasn't actually in the city of Milwaukee.
Wait, now, that was a good question.
Mhm.
I'm more confused now.
Sorry.
No, this is great.
Yeah, the Milwaukee,
So the Milwaukee Community Center is currently owned and part of NCPRD.
we do not own it,
Okay,
no, it's part of the city of Milwaukee.
It was
We-
given to
we
them
run.
by the county.
Yeah, basically, we run all the programs there. It's our staff and everything.
Got it.
Milwaukee pays taxes like the rest of the district, so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But what my comment was, if there is a split.
Yeah.
There will be discussions about the ball fields, the Milwaukee Center, use of this, et cetera, will all, I'm just.
Yeah, above my
I'm
pay
just-
grade, yeah, you're right.
Actually, that's right, that's where the taxpayers are, but
Yep,
anyway.
mhm. Yeah,
It really is a question, how would that all get divided up and what would go where? and
that's
who
the big question.
And who
Grover,
would
yeah.
have access to, et cetera, and that's a negotiation point.
Yeah, exactly.
The only other thing that was in the conversation that wanting to know about those pass-throughs and stuff, that there was a request, and I didn't hear it in your list of things. But there was to have more transparency, not like it's being hidden, but it's just not available. What is being funded? Because it isn't a general fund from NCPRD, it is from some source. And that was a question both about transfers, but also about that, to know where did money come from?
And we will, we have a list of, we have a list of the questions and things like that from the meeting, and we're developing a memo to put with the next, packet.
Super.
So we are working. All right. Any additional questions?
We have any idea, or when would we know what the date in February is? Cause like scheduling is an important thing over on my side of the world, so.
Yeah, so it's going to be in between, you know what, we will circle back on that, I think, next week. And maybe we can try and get something on the calendar, because it's gonna be after the DAC meeting, but then I think we have a short window between the DAC meeting and when our final budget is due with the county, and I think it's like a week, so it'll be, I just don't know what that next DAC meeting in February is.
It's the 12th.
The 12th, so it'll be that week after.
Okay,
So we
So
get
we
the
can-
18th,
and having a poll was great for this.
yeah.
It's-
Okay, we'll let Jessica know, she sort of led the way on that.
Mhm. Yeah, we can ask her to get that out right away so you can get the calendar.
Right. So we know it'll be after the 12th.
Mhm.
And before, and once, do you know what that due date is that you were saying that things had to be known by?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but it will be, it's
It's in February?
in February,
Yeah.
the second or last week of February, so it's a fairly quick.
It is.
Yeah.
About a 10-12 day window there or something like that. Okay, cool.
And maybe this is just, is there a reason it's so quickly afterwards? Cause I mean, it seems like there's a lot of like really valuable stuff that comes out of the DAC meeting.
Yeah, for sure.
And is that just the dates are pre-decided?
Yeah, second Wednesday.
Okay.
And it's also, time for staff to do preparation on our side. And it's, we build our budgets off of some information from the county that isn't necessarily readily available for us, so it's think of like a big moving circle with targets. So that's, it seemed to be the earliest that we could have information, relevant information or valuable information to share.
I think last year, we, not only us, but the entire county was waiting on the allocation numbers, which we were just kind of twiddling our thumbs until we could get that. And those are significant numbers, so it's not like we could, $5 or $10 either way, those are big swings, so that's what happened last year.
But that was a great understatement, that you were at the mercy of getting that information that only they can give you, the county.
Yes.
Yep.
So we have to have every piece so that we can balance, each piece of the budget, so we can't really move it forward without the piece, so.
And this is just a, sorry, an administrative, just, I'm curious, just because. We renew I remember that last part of the budget meeting, you renew the levy. Is it a permanent levy? Is that right? Because I know there's like 5-year levies.
Yeah, it's our permanent tax rate. They call it a levy. It's our permanent. It's what we were kind of,
It's in the
another
formation.
tougher, it's our
Yeah.
formation.
Yeah,
It was a measure, we as residents voted for it, and it included, that's how much it's gonna cost you.
Yeah, but it's different from like, I know like North Clackamas school district,
Mhm.
we just voted on. Levy, like renewing a levy.
That was probably a bond, maybe?
No, it was a levy,
Okay.
it was a levy, but it was like, I know levies are usually like a fixed increment of time, that's.
Yeah,
typically 5 years and
Yeah.
we do it every 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, ours is, it is 53 cents basically, if you want to round a little bit.
Yeah.
But that is our rate
It's a
unless,
permanent levy, okay.
unless it gets changed
Yeah.
sometime by the vote of the
By
people.
the vote.
Okay, got it, so it's permanent, okay.
And it would probably take place if in fact there was a movement to become a separate district.
Yeah.
And it would happen in that same
For sure,
process.
for sure, okay. Thank you.
all right. Anything else?
We hope these are helpful because we are trying to, like, I don't think we did this last year, definitely not this early.
Yeah.
We were able to get budget committee members way earlier. That's why you're seeing, you know, both, everyone here was elected in 24, but they were literally 6 months apart. Cause I think last year we were doing it in the early spring.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
So-
April, yeah.
Callie and Lydia and her team is really trying to take some direction. I think from a couple years ago, Commissioner Savas just wanted us to work to be more transparent and get the DAC involved. So we're learning this. So if you have any suggestions moving forward, we can continue to adjust next year just to make it easier. But one of our struggles is I think, you know, Oregon budget law restricts us from divulging. So we're doing things at a higher level when we do these. So we're not, everything's a proposed, you know, in parentheses. So we're not getting in trouble that way. But I think it's good to have you guys on board and to understand. You know, one thing I would add, just for your information, is we do have a lot of movement. Internally, we have some retirements and staff wise, we're moving some parts around. So that's one of the things Callie's also juggling on how do those new positions impact, because we're trying to get more depth with staff and spread more. So we're trying to get more boots on the ground, if you will. So yeah, they do a great job.
Well, thank you all, because
Yeah.
anytime you do this, we know it puts more work on your plates too, so.